We're hearing there a version of Lift Every Voice and Sing, also known as the Black National Anthem. Here to tell us about a week-long tribute to the Jacksonville natives who wrote it. I'm joined by Sharon Coon, festival organizer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hazel Gillis, president of the James Weldon Johnson branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Good morning, Hazel.
Good morning.
And Deborah McDuffie, director of the 500-voice children's choir that will be performing this song for the festival. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Deborah, you're recreating the first performance of this song. Lift Every Voice and Sing was performed publicly for the first time at the segregated Stanton School in 1900.
Correct.
And so you're going to be putting together 500 school children to do this a similar performance. How is it, first of all, conducting 500 school children?
Well, when I was choral director at Paxson School for Advanced Studies, believe it or not, I had a chorus of 103. So 500 is a lot more than 103, so I don't know what I've gotten myself into, quite honestly. But it should be very, very exciting.
It's my understanding that this song was first performed to celebrate President Abraham Lincoln's birthday?
It was originally written for Abraham Lincoln's birthday, yes.
Okay. And so what is it that the students knew, if anything, about this song when you first started working with them?
Not too much. A lot of our history is not being taught anymore. A lot of history isn't being taught anymore. So especially in working with the rich voices who are going to join the children for this conversation, it's an opportunity to teach and to instill history, not just Black history, but history into our young people. So it's really exciting to tell the story and have them respond enthusiastically to this whole event.
And Hazel, this is an important piece of Jacksonville's history. James Weldon Johnson and his brother, Rosamond Johnson, who composed the music. Tell us a little bit about who these brothers were and why they're important in the scope of Jacksonville's past.
They are very important. James Weldon Johnson wrote the lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing, and his brother, John Rosamond Johnson, put it to music. So it is very important that this is part of Jacksonville's history. This is not only Jacksonville's history, but this is world history that we've learned that the brothers here that lived here in Jacksonville.
And so they wrote this song together. They were both very committed to the arts and culture in terms of advancing Black life and Black civil rights. Both of them were very prominent in terms of their own communities, but also in leading the effort to civil rights. James Weldon Johnson went on to become the first leader of the NAACP.
That is correct.
Yeah, and so how much of that history do you think is widely known in these parts?
So what we're trying to do is to make sure everyone knows about the history of James Weldon Johnson and John Rosamond Johnson, and also Black history. And since you asked that question, we are also, the James Weldon Johnson branch of ASALA, we have a freedom school where we teach Black history on Saturdays at Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church, 11:30 a.m. every Saturday, so that we can make sure that the community knows about Black history. So that's what we're doing.
How did you first learn about James Weldon Johnson and his brother, John Rosamond Johnson?
Well, I grew up in North Carolina. And in North Carolina, in the segregated school, which was grades 1 through 12, we sang Lift Every Voice and Sing every morning for devotion. So before I came to Jacksonville, I knew about Lift Every Voice and Sing. We sang Lift Every Voice and Sing. So it's no mystery. I'm just glad to be here in the city where they were born.
Yeah. Sharon Coon, this is a festival that you're heading up. Explain to us, first of all, why it is that the 125th anniversary is something that needs to be celebrated.
Well, you got to realize during the period when Lift Every Voice and Sing was written by James Weldon Johnson, it first started off when he was invited to do a speech in celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birthday. But you got to realize the period, right, during the Reconstruction, going into the Jim Crow, when Florida was leading the lynching people at about 79,000 which was the highest in all the southern Georgia, was second. So when James Weldon Johnson looking at what was happening, instead of writing a speech, his first line was lift every voice and sing, which is a call for action. And because of his experience, he got tears in his eyes when he thought about what he had seen, what he had witnessed. So he started the call for action, lift every voice and sing, which is the only hymn in the United States that really identifies a culture of history. And even from then, he wanted to deal with the challenges that African Americans, it was a dark period. And even in that dark period, he gave hope and life to the situation so that people would not give up.
His lyrics, some of the lyrics were very much evocative of the suffering of people, during slave times, but also during very difficult periods in that Reconstruction period. I mean, his lyrics in that second verse are very dark.
But you have to remember what happened so that if you don't talk about it and you don't give people hope, that song was faith. It was hope. Don't you give up. And that's what I love about it. But the most important thing about that song, when he wrote the song, when the kids performed this song, he did not know it was going to become a national song. Because you got to realize he was almost murdered right here in Jacksonville. When the Great Fire that happened, he was over in the park at Riverside, and he had accepted an interview with a reporter from New York. She was light-skinned. And the militias came along, and they thought she was white, and they was going to lynch him. And someone recognized him, and they took him in. And James, that really frightened him at that time, and that's why that caused him to leave Jacksonville. But no other citizen, according to the scholars, have achieved as much as James Weldon Johnson did in Jacksonville in the state of Florida.
So this was actually proclaimed the Negro National Anthem by the NAACP in 1919, and that was more than a decade before the Star-Spangled Banner was adopted as the national anthem under President Hoover. I'm curious, Deborah, what place does it have for you, and how does your concern about this song or your feelings about this song, how do you convey that to your students, to these children?
Well, this song is very important to me, especially because of the lyrics that you just mentioned. They're very stony, the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. That's being beat with a whip, And so what I did back in, and with the civil rights movement in the 60s, the song regained prominence along with We Shall Overcome. They became the two songs of the civil rights movement. So what I did, because the song was so dear to me and I wanted younger generations who didn't even know about a Black National Anthem, it was called the Negro National Anthem at that time, to have an awareness and an understanding and to be able to study the words, and that's part of not just our history, but it's part of history. And I was in music production at the time, and I went to one of my clients, who I will not name, and I said, for Black History Month, I would like to do an updated version or a current version, contemporary version of Lift Every Voice and Sing. And unbelievably, they agreed, and they footed the whole bill. And I produced a contemporary gospel version, so it had hope. Right now, the song is kind of like a dirge. Lift every voice, it's drags. But it expressed the hope that Ms. Coon just talked about. It was uplifting. It's like, we can do this. In other words, we shall overcome. And I enlisted Al Green, Denise Williams, Roberta Flack, Melba Moore, and Patty Austin to sing on this thing. And it became, and I almost said the client's name, and the client distributed free of charge to all the schools in the country. So this was my way of getting it out there. And now that I'm at the Ritz, when the Ritz reopened, we had the Lift Every Voice and Sing animatronic with the voice of Ozzie Davis as James Weldon Johnson telling the story. So that was another project that I was able to be involved in heavily, that got the word about this wonderful composition out to the public, not just Jacksonville, but to the world.
And we should say, I mean, we're kind of not making a big deal of it, but you're a pretty big deal in the music production world. You've worked with some of the biggest names in music.
Right.
You know, you named a few, but you've also worked alongside the Jacksons. You've, had a number of interactions with and made music with some of the stars of
Exactly.
the last 30 years.
So I took advantage of those relationships to do this rendition. So
If you're just joining us, we're talking about the 125th anniversary of Lift Every Voice and Sing, written by Jacksonville native James Weldon Johnson. There's a festival all this next week celebrating it. And if you'd like to join our conversation, you can give us a call at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org, or you can reach out on social media. We've got a call from Richard on the north side. Good morning, Richard. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Ann, Sharon, Hazel. I actually met Hazel standing in line at the bank and connected back to Sharon. Now, I've been working with and watching Sharon's work in the community for years. Thank you guys for this conversation. I want to say, number one, you said earlier that there was a part of the song that was dark. It wasn't so much that the song was dark. It was that the times were dark, and that song was to be the light in that darkness, and the children singing it. That's exactly what it became. But I would say to the listeners to listen to a podcast or a show that came on NPR called Radio Lab. They did this wonderful series called The Vanishing of Harry Pace. You guys have it on your website, I think. But there's one particular episode that tells a wonderful story that if it were not for the Great Fire, we would not know that the Lift Every Voice and Sing as a Black National Anthem. Because of the Great Fire, those 500 children and their families scattered all over the United States. And the children took the song with them. And that's why it was sung in so many different communities, because literally that song migrated across the nation, and it became talk of a Black national anthem even before the United States had a national anthem. And in response, a white national anthem was written using the very racist lyrics of Francis Scott Key as a reaction to the Lift Every Voice and Sing movement, which was amazing that song not only inspired Black folk, but it literally inspired our nation to come up with its own national anthem. I think this Lift Every Voice was written in 1901. We didn't get a national anthem until like 1938.
I just wanted to say it was written in 1899 and was performed in 1900.
But to Richard's point, it is true that James Weldon Johnson had no idea of the reach this song would have. He said that, quote, shortly after the performance, my brother and I moved away from Jacksonville to New York, and the song passed out of our minds. But the school children of Jacksonville kept singing it, and they went off to other schools and they sang it. They became teachers and taught it to other children. And within 20 years, it was being sung over the South and in some other parts of the country. He said, the lines of this song repay me in an elation, almost exquisite anguish whenever I hear them sung by Negro children. It is a powerful song. Hazel, when you are teaching people about James Weldon Johnson through the seminars that you do on Black history and other places, is a festival like this an opportunity to connect with a kind of different audience about this song and about the author of it?
This is an excellent opportunity for us to connect with the entire community. So we're excited that we have this festival, and we were glad to be partners with the Friends of Brentwood Library.
Yeah. Sharon, so this is a call to action, as you said, and you've in the past interpreted this not just as a call to action for that time, but for our time.
It is very needed now because this song is really a community building project. What it's going to do is going to help each of us understand our cultures and our differences, but also understand what binds and connect us together. We all have different backgrounds, and it brings respect and it brings honor when we can talk about race relations. It's a touchy subject, but it needs to be talked about, because if you don't have the discussion, you cannot build a relationship. And this is why we have awesome facilitators coming in to talk about. We have 904 going to talk about the race card. We have the NAACP is going to be doing a workshop on how race affects education. We're going to be talking about the 100 years of voter suppression in the state of Florida, the Crooked Line. We're going to be talking about the 100 years of black supporters, which I just talked about. We're also going to be talking about the discussion on Harriet T. They were civil rights activists.
Oh, murdered in Mims.
Mims, Florida.
Mhm.
They're coming in to do the whole presentation. We're going to have Norman Studio going to be talking about The Flying Ace, which was the first black silent movie that Mr. Norman did right here in Jacksonville. And that was inspired by Bessie Coleman. So we got a lot of things our children are going to learn from. We have the judges going to be talking about the film that the children, through Friends of Brentwood Library, we taught them how to handle interviews. We taught them how to do research on African American history, and they had to do their research. But as a result, we were able to produce the Jacksonville Then and Now film as a partnership with the Smithsonian Institute when we did A Place for All People. And that was done with middle and high school kids right here in Jacksonville. And they did it in 1 month's time. 1 month's time. So
You have also, though, connected the Lift Every Voice theme to voting and the importance of voting.
yes, because James Weldon Johnson, being a civil rights activist, helping develop the NAACP chapters, it was difficult. People lost their lives for trying to vote. It was difficult. And so voting right now is crucial. If we don't use the power and authority that we have over situations that we can do something about, then it's like a sad thing when you don't vote. When people died to stand in a line to vote, people were really killed and lynched. So to take it for granted, not only that, reading. It was against the law for a slave to learn how to read, to pick up a book. So this is why our children need to know the sacrifices that were made. I remember a couple of years ago when they opened up the African American History Museum, Washington, D.C., we took about 50 there. And those little kids went through the slave tour. They came out crying. And they said, Lord, I thank you that I was not born during that period. And they said, Miss Coon, you won't have no more problems with us picking up a book and read. This is why our children need to know their history.
I want to take a call from Dave in Avondale. Good morning, Dave. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm a big fan of mass choir events, when you go here in the soccer stadiums all singing together. And my recommendation is that you have at least two renditions of a song sung for the public, one at the event. One is just the kids, and the second is a sing-along. And when everybody can participate, and if you want to get fancy, you can have publicized a download of the lyrics. And I'm sure one of the video conference production companies would be glad to donate the use of a big screen that would be beside the singers with the lyrics. so the audience can sing along appropriately. And I think a sing along is a very powerful way of getting the whole audience involved, and it becomes much more powerful.
Yeah.
Well,
So, when are you going to start working?
What's that? I mean, is there this obviously is a call, as Sharon said, lift every voice. The children will be singing it. Is there going to be an opportunity for people to join in?
let me tell you, there will be opportunities every day for people to join in. When we kick off the celebration, the 12th at 10 o'clock, we're going to start off with Lift Every Voice and Sing. Every event that we have, and it's going to be Lift Every Voice and Sing. When we go into the James Weldon Johnson Park and celebrate in both parks, lift every voice and sing. The kids will be, well, everybody will be singing in the park. And then the World Day of Celebration at Bethel Baptist Church. Everybody's invited. They're going to be singing, lift every voice and sing. See, we are inclusive. We are not exclusive when we plan something, because what we do is to join and connect us together, to bind us together, okay? So you are welcome. I don't know your name, but please come, and I look forward to seeing you. You come up and ask for Miss Coon so I can meet you, because I want to hear you sing Lift Every Voice and Sing with us.
And you can find the lyrics online. They are very moving to read and beautiful. The week of events starts on February 12th, and it runs through that whole next week. There's plenty of information to be found at jwjlifteveryvoice.com. I want to close with a performance of the full song, Lift Every Voice and Sing, performed by Jada Holliday, courtesy of Baylor University. Sharon Coon, Hazel, Gillis, Deborah, McDuffie, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having us.
And we'll
It's
be
a
back after
pleasure.
this.
Thank you.